Okay, got it.
Remember we worked with
I will call the regular meeting of the Irmo Town Council to order, and I will recognize Councilman Walker, if you'll lead us in the pledge of allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, in this Christmas season, I hope that you could bless this council so that we can become the servants that you really want us to be. That we can become the servants that will lead by example, be honest and truthful in the things that we do, and do things on behalf of the community to make Irmo a better town than it is today. To be one in accord with each other, to be one in accord with the community, and also to do your will. In this name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes from November the 20th. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the minutes being approved as written, do so with show of hands. And next item is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown, do you have anything?
yes, sir. A couple things. In front of everybody, I put it looked like a little spreadsheet that says more group on top. This is from John Moore, and he's the developer for Rose Oaks. They have completed phase 1. I have an engineering letter in the back that's also been validated by the Richland County that the infrastructure for phase 1 has been completed. And I just need council to approve giving him back his bond money of $57,487.50. That was money he gave us. He's met all the requirements, and we simply returned it to him.
Okay.
He posted that money in cash, did he not?
Correct. He did.
So do we need to approve that, or just tell you to go ahead and write it back to him?
Correct. I mean,
it's just administrative.
Like the administrative function. Just want council to be aware of it, and that you guys are. There's no problem with it.
Okay. Anybody have a problem with giving this money back? Okay.
So all the pages. Here, it's broke.
Oh, okay.
Anything?
We have the Arbor Day proclamation that the mayor has already signed this evening. Arbor Day is this Friday, the 7th of December at 9:15, I believe. Correct. Over at Irmo Elementary. Correct. And also, we had a planning commission meeting last night. Councilwoman Condon has requested that we look into in-home businesses and a way to tighten up on our ordinance. They agree that there are some things that we do need to look at, especially with people that have possible businesses, lots of cars parked in the front yard, that sort of thing. They want to review it again at the next meeting. So, just so you know.
Thank you, Bob.
It'll be January meeting before we can iron that out and come back to council with a recommendation.
And I saw something the other day, and I can't remember now what it was on, but that International Property Maintenance, I think it's called.
Okay.
And I know y'all had something in there about looking at the teeth just in our regular ordinance. Have they ever looked at that and see if there's any stuff in that we need to maybe adopt that's in that code? Or?
Could be.
I think that code covers a lot of the regular just code enforcement type stuff.
I'll ask Mr. Schuler.
I think it was at the Municipal Association monthly mail out or something like that that I saw that in there. That might be good that they see if there's anything in that we need to add.
I would do that. The biggest thing is they want to get people out of parking in the yard, try to keep all the automobiles in owner-occupied houses in the driveway or in the street. We have that clause in our landlord ordinance where they can't, but we haven't done it for our regular ordinance for people who own their own homes.
We need to get on that soon.
I'll have a recommendation after the next planning commission meeting.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, sir.
Okay. Now, this letter, I think it was in here from Steve Park. Do we have an address for him or anything? He's not the one at the real estate company over here.
No,
That's
that's Steve
Craig
Craig.
or something, yeah. But we don't have an address for this guy.
Does anybody know him?
I do not know, and that came to us, plain envelope.
Do you have a telephone number?
Nothing on here.
What you see is what we got.
Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. Any other questions of Mr. Brown? Next item on the agenda is for city communications. Item A, presentation of our audit for our last fiscal year budget. Mr. Milhouse, here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Good evening. I'm Bob Milhouse, and we have provided to you today the final audited report for the town as of the fiscal year end June 30, 2012. What I propose to do is just briefly present it to you today as communication. Once you've had a chance to look at it, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to come back and entertain any questions, because I think some of you folks perhaps like to have a chance to read it and look at it. If you'll turn to page 1 of the document with me, please. The report of the independent auditor is the letter that's addressed to you as the governing body for the town of Irmo, and it states that we've audited the financial statements of the town as of and for the year ended June 30, 2012. We conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Those standards are promulgated by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and we're in compliance with those standards. The third paragraph is the opinion. The opinion states that the financial statements presented herein present fairly in all material respects the financial position, the results of operations, and the cash flows where applicable for the year ended June 30, 2012, and that's in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, applicable to governmental entities such as the town. This is the highest assurance that you can receive on your financial statements. So that's a clean, unqualified opinion, and I'm pleased to present that to you. As in the past, there's several sections into this document. Beginning on page 3 is management's discussion and analysis of the financial activities that transpired in this past fiscal year. If you will, just, and it's good nightly reading, but if you want a quick overview of the financial activities of the town, turn to page 6, please. In the management's discussion and analysis, one of the requirements is to show a real condensed version of the financial activities, and this is really depicted in the table on page 6, where at the top section you have revenues broken down between programmatic, general revenues, and total as far as the activities of governmental activities and business type activities. As in the past, your business activity primarily is the Okra Strut Festival. Your governmental activities is primarily your general fund plus ABC permit fund and the capital projects fund that was created this past year. Total revenues in 2012, in the middle of that page, was $4.978 million for your governmental activities, compared to $4.5 in 2011. In business type activities of the Okra Strut of a year ago, not the one that just transpired, had total revenues of about $146,000 plus compared to about $115 of 2011. Your expenditures are shown in the next section of the table, and for 2012 your governmental activities had total expenditures, not including the Okra Strut, of $4.5 million and change, compared to 4.7, so you were down a little bit on your expenditures as far as your fiscal management of the financial affairs goes. The Okra Strut had expenses of $125,239 compared to $111,000 of 2011. The net between the revenues and the expenses is the change in net assets. In your governmental activities, you had a positive change in net assets of $444,070 compared to a deficit of 2011 of $239,000. And in business type activities of the Okra Strut, it had a positive $21,486 compared to $3,995 of 2011. That's a quick overview of the financial activities of the town as a whole, and that's referred to as its government-wide activities. and that's the revenues and expenses.
Mr. Millhouse, you said the total revenues for the Okra Strut is on that bottom line. It says total revenues of 146,725 in 2012
That's correct.
and 115. So that total revenue line is Okra Strut revenue across the board, or just those two columns?
Just the two columns under business type activity.
And that's the only business that we have.
Yes.
Where does our,
Well, it's accounted for as a business type because you charge user fees and ticket sales and sponsorships and so forth like that, versus tax-based.
Right.
Okay, if it's tax-based, it's going to be in the governmental activity column.
And it's 2011 Okra Strut. It's not 2012 Okra Strut.
It says 2012 here.
Well,
Right,
that's for the
June 30. June 30, Okra Strut doesn't happen until the end of September.
Oh, okay.
So you're a year in arrears
Oh, okay.
on the Okra Strut.
So this year would be 2013, but it really is 2012.
It would be in your fiscal year 13, correct?
and the way you just explained that, that puts the garbage enterprise fund into the governmental activities because it is a fee?
The sanitation is a service that is rendered by the government, and you do assess the users of that through the tax bill.
So it wouldn't go under business type activity?
No, sir.
Okay, gotcha.
Where's that? Where's the enterprise fund for the garbage?
I'm sorry, I did not hear the question.
Okay, I see the sanitation expense line. Where the sanitation revenue comes from?
Let me continue a little bit here, and I can
Okay.
answer your question. Flip to page 12 for me, please. I wanted to give you a quick overview of the bottom line fiscal affairs of the town. Now we can kind of drill down into it a little bit. Page 12 is perhaps a little bit of detail of the revenue and expenditures of the governmental fund activities. The general fund column, the ABC permit fund column, the capital project fund, and the total governments. Councilman, you asked a question about revenue and sanitation. You can see at the top of page 12 there's a listing of the revenue items. Your LOST, your local option sales tax, license and permits, state shared revenue, franchise fees, and I'm just reading down that list right there, and if you keep on going you'll see a line item entitled sanitation fees, $589,960. Okay? And then the cost associated with the contract was $626,267 for last fiscal year. So this is drilling down a little bit further. Mayor, members of council, what we just looked at from a bigger picture, this is primarily focused on pages 11 and 12 on the governmental activities, general fund being the primary activity fund there in that aspect. Okay? All right, and pages 13 and 14 is a little bit more drill down for the Okra Strut of the September 11 event that was in last fiscal year's 12. Okay, 13 shows, page 13 has the balance sheet of your Okra Strut, showed it had cash and cash equivalents, $16,614. It had some equity in the town's pooled cash funds of $40,000. Had some prepaid expenses of $3,750. Those prepaid expenses would have been for the upcoming September 12 event. And so the sum of those is $60,482. So you had net assets at the beginning of your fiscal year going into this past fall's Okra Strut of $60,482. On page 14 is the revenue received from rentals, concessions, and various sales, as well as contracts and grants that transpired for the Okra Strut, as well as the operating cost associated with the event. And we see that in the middle of page 14 that the Okra Strut really had an operating loss of the rental concession sales revenue less its operating expenses in the middle of the page, line operating loss of $20,406. And this is before non-operating contributions, if you will, like interest income, grant, your ABC grant permit, transferred about $39,000 plus dollars in additional donations that were took into account. And that's what brings the orchestra into the positive, if you will, of $21,486 for the change in net assets for the year ended June 30, 2012. Like I said earlier, Mayor, I'd be glad to entertain additional questions. Once you and members of council have a chance to read and go through the document, just let Mr. Brown know, and I'll be glad to come back and entertain any questions, or if you have a workshop to go through it in more detail. We've had a good audit. We appreciate the opportunity to serve the town. You do have a clean, unqualified opinion on your financials, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
May I ask him one?
Yes, ma'am.
On the agenda tonight, there's part of it that refers to banking, whether we change banks and that. My only question is, everything we're doing thus far in terms of checks, balances, the whole thing, is the way you want it?
Well, it's not necessarily how I want it. That's not the key. Is do you have the proper checks and balances, as you referred to, the controls over banking operations? And the answer to that question is yes, you do. So the financial institution aspect of things, bank, if you will, I refer to it as a broader name, financial institution, is as long as they're giving you, or whoever it is, gives the town the correct and necessary documents on a monthly basis or as needed basis with the least amount of fees and so forth like that, that's the win-win situation. And that's what I would advise you to look at. Once those documents are available to staff here, then you've got the checks and balances of the disbursement and the receipting, the reconciliation of the bank statement on a monthly basis, and the recording into the general ledger. So that's the key, is you want to make sure that any type of relationship you have with a financial institution is that they're going to provide you the necessary documents as when you need them.
Right.
Second piece of it is treasury function. Okay, so you primarily ask internal control, checks and balances. But a financial institution, one of the things I advise you is, are they a good treasury of the town's funds? Do you need, are they treasury, meaning are they collateralized by federal instruments, FDIC insurance? Do you need to have all your eggs in one basket? Did you need to split them out? That's a policy decision, okay? And so the financial institution can provide you that information. You would want to make sure that the town's assets, its cash and investments, is properly protected with either insurance or collateralized with federal instruments.
Okay. But what we're doing right now is good. So even if we choose another bank or whatever, it ought to be the same system.
It should be, but certainly management would have a better feel for how that would transpire depending on what institution you're looking at.
Well,
and the services.
I just care about your opinion right now.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? And like I say, if y'all look over this and you have questions, then we can let Mr. Brown know that we can actually come back in January sometime and all. But maybe hopefully we won't. Looks like we got a good
report.
Financial scheme.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is B, report from the 2012 Irmo Orchestra Commission. And okay.
Mayor, Council, I'm Kirk Luther, Chairman of the 2012 Lexington Medical Center Irmo Orchestra Festival. And I'd like to say I like the way Mr. Milhouse gave that report. I was impressed myself. First, I'd like to thank the Commission, the Orchestra Commission, with for putting out a great festival this year. We were up against a challenge, had a few roadblocks, hurdles, so to speak, to jump, and they managed to do that glowingly, moving it from the big old parking lot over here to the town park, which was an excellent venue. All the information we got back from the response we got from the town and from the festival goers was all very favorable. And so I just want to thank them for doing a fantastic job this year. In front of you or on your iPod, you have the financials for this year. If you'd please take the left-hand column and just ignore it, fold it over or something, the one that's just the budget. That's just a guideline. It's not our actuals. The actuals are on the right-hand side. If you see our total operating revenue was $68,108. Our miscellaneous revenue, which includes corporate sponsorship, was $30,300, and I'd like to get back to that in a moment. We did receive $2,500 in accommodations tax, and our total revenue was $100,908. In our expenses, our administration expenses was $48,400. Our concession expenses was $49,300, and our operations expenses was $12,968, with a total of $110,758, which left us with a deficit at that, when you got this report, at minus $9,850.97. Those were the numbers we had when we made this report. Since then, though, if you go back to the corporate sponsorship, which was line item 40625, that number was reported as 28.2, which in fact, in reality, it is 31.2. We had $2,000 that was not included on this report. Also, since this report was made, we picked up another $500 from one of our sponsors, the Irmo Kiwanis Club. And in my pocket at 5 o'clock this evening, I picked up our title sponsorship for $15,000 from Lexington Medical Center. So if you add those back into our bottom line, I show a positive figure of $7,649.03 at this point with these figures.
Was it 7,496?
$7,649.03.
Kirk, under the corporate sponsorships, wait a minute, where, yeah. Lexington Medical Center was not included in that?
No, this is actual. This is the actual money that has been brought into that point.
Okay.
I mean, this is the real money.
Right.
That's why I said ignore the left-hand column.
Right.
Everything that's in the right-hand column is money that has either gone out or come in.
Okay.
Actually, it's right. Can I give this to Kim now? I really don't want to carry it around.
Yeah. Give us those bottom line numbers again. 7,000 what?
Go over all of them again and write them down. Okay.
Well, I mean, they're broken up quite a bit, but the bottom, you want the bottom line. The bottom line number you're looking at on this report was minus $9,850.97. Since then, I brought in another, or we brought in another $17,500 to the positive. So if you do the math, 17.5 minus 9,850.97, you come up with 7649.03, I believe. And I'd also like to say that there still is some sponsorship money that we have not received yet. This is just to date, so we will be getting some more money.
But you're in the black.
By my math.
Any questions of Mr. Luther? Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other receipt communications?
Yes. Sorry, let me get back. Bear with me just a second. We get back to my agenda. City Communications. I know there have been a lot of discussion about the Veterans Park and some issues surrounding that. The town attorney had, in talking with him, asking some more questions about that, he had shared with me a meeting that had been held at the Attorney General's office in regards to that, and I would like to ask him if he would elaborate on what that decision, I think we're to be getting that in writing.
I think it's already been sent to somebody.
Okay,
with email.
Yeah, I think they sent an email, but I don't know that they were going to.
They're just sending it. The email is all I know of. What happened is we met. Chip Huggins met with what's the man's name? Donlin, Mr. Donlin, and Mr. Donlin refused to just let it go. So Chip set up a meeting with the Attorney General, Mr. Bob Cook. We were invited down there, and when we got there, Mr. Donlin was in the process of discussing his issues with the Attorney General and his assistant. They stayed in the room for, I don't know, 30 minutes, after which Mr. Cook invited myself and Whit to come in. We came in and answered every question they had, showed them what we had, and I think that the mayor went in and talked to Mr. Cook for a while.
The mayor was there too?
The mayor came while we were, I think, in the meeting. He talked to the mayor separately. And
So this was a secret meeting that was planned and didn't tell anybody about it?
well, I actually was asked to come, I think about the day before, and I told Whit at breakfast that we were going, and Whit said, I want to go too, so Whit joined me, and I was sort of expecting to have Mr. Huggins and Mr. Donlin and myself in the room, but it turned out 3 separate meetings. In any event, we spent a good portion of an afternoon or morning down there, and after it was over, I received a telephone call from Mr. Cook, who basically indicated that they had found absolutely nothing wrong with anything which had been done, and that there was their conclusion that the Freedom of Information Act had not been violated. And I believe he said he was going to place that into an email to Bob Brown or the town or someone. And I believe, I have not seen, I had asked him to send me a copy of the email. I haven't seen it, but I understand it has been sent and received. I don't know, Bob, did you get it?
I have not got it yet.
Hardy, have you seen it?
Yeah, Chip sent me one 2 or 3 days after, I think.
We basically, Mr. Donlin has had his discussion with the Attorney General's office, and as a matter of fact, when I called Mr. Cook to find out what he was going to do, he said something to the effect that they ought to give them a medal, and could not understand the nature of the complaint. And he told me that they asked Mr. Donlin very real specifics about what he alleged was done wrong, and he could not give them any specifics except for the fact that he thought that he ought to have some input for some reason. He thought he ought to have some input into the sign that went up. And,
The sign?
The sign that the arborist committee paid for. He felt that he should have...
You mean the plaque?
Plaque. He felt that he should have had some input into the plaque. But in any event, weren't sure we understood why, but that was okay. The Attorney General's office looked at it, and hopefully that places it to rest. I guess they can go to the FBI or something from now. But,
It's the next step, right?
the matter is basically ended as far as the Attorney General's office is concerned, and everyone that's looked at it has basically found nothing wrong.
So let me get this straight. Y'all had a secret meeting with the Attorney General office.
Yes, we did.
And the mayor showed up and decided to go in there and discuss with Donlin how we did something illegal.
Donlin wasn't in my meeting.
And then basically you saying that the Attorney General said, in a nutshell, that you guys are barking up the wrong tree. You should have given Whit a medal instead of giving him, chastising for giving him $50,000. And hopefully this will be the end of the situation, but will probably not be.
You know, Veterans Park is a sore subject, and I understand that. But
I don't see why it is a sore subject.
I don't listen.
Don't tell me it's a sore subject. It's not a sore
Let's keep this to administrative briefing and let's get on with it.
The meeting was not a secret meeting. It was one that we attended at the request of a state legislator who set it up because he wanted the Attorney General to give Mr. Donovan his say.
Well, how did you get invited? I didn't get invited. I thought last time I checked, I thought I was elected official in town.
You know.
Did you get invited, Paul?
No.
Did you get invited, Harvey? Did you get invited?
No.
You showed up, so you obviously were not invited. So how in the world these people get invited to these meetings to discuss our Veterans Park, and then
Let me address this.
I'm not found out about it after the fact?
You weren't invited, that's why.
That's my point. Why was I invited? You were invited. Why was I invited?
Let me speak. Mr. Pat Donlon set this meeting up. He asked to meet with Mr. Cook and Chip Huggins.
Okay.
That's who he asked to meet with.
So how'd you get involved with it then?
If you will be quiet, I will speak. Then, I think there became a big meeting. Mr. Moore was invited. I think Chip Huggins wanted Mr. Moore there. I think there was some discussion about that. That was not what Mr. Pat Donlon asked for. He asked for a separate meeting with Chip Huggins and Mr. Cook. And then he asked me to attend. I
Who
really
asked
didn't
you
want
to attend?
I'm speaking.
You said he asked you. Who asked you?
I'm going to keep speaking.
Who's he? Is what I'm saying. Define who he
Listen
is.
and be quiet, and you might hear and understand.
I'm trying to decipher what
You're
you're
not trying
saying,
very hard. I'm speaking to the public here anyway. Then I think, from my understanding, Mr. Pat Donlon understood Chip wasn't going to be at the meeting unless you were there because you're a constituent of his, I think is what he told me, and so was Pat Donlon, so that's why he wanted to address that. He called and asked if I would come and be there. So I said, fine.
Who's he that called you? Pat
I've been
Donlon
asked by
called
Pat
you?
Donlon and Chip
Oh,
Huggins.
okay. That's
And
what I'm
Chip
trying to
Huggins
get.
both.
Okay.
And I think because of our guidelines, you can't have 3 council members there. It would be a secret meeting, it would be a
The 3
quorum,
councilmen
whatever.
is you and who else?
Huh?
The 3 councilmen, it was
I'm
you
just
and who
saying you
else?
can't have 3.
What other 3 councilmen? It's
I don't know what
you
you're talking
and who
about.
else? There's no other 3 councilmen there.
Anyway, is that the gist of it?
That's pretty much
He met with you, or he met with him, he met with you, then he met with me, and then they went about their discussion.
And then they sent the email and that was it.
Yeah, and they sent out an email, and that was it. And I thought he CC'd you in on it. I don't know, I got CC'd in on it. I think it went to Mr. Donlon, because it came from Cook to Chip, and then Chip, I guess, CC'd it out to whoever.
I never got it. I asked Bob Cook to send me one. I never got it, but I heard it was sent.
I think I've got it here. If I can figure out how to forward it, I can forward it to you.
I just understand everybody was clear of any wrongdoing, and nothing, the Attorney General's office found nothing wrong with anything that was done by the town of Irmo or anybody.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Donlon's question that he was asking the Attorney General was there a meeting that didn't meet FOI requirements, such as 3 council members being a part of it, which that wasn't there. I think his understanding, and I'm not going to speak on his behalf, was that if you and, say, Witt and somebody else got together, then that was a meeting. And I told him no, unless 3 council members were there, that it wouldn't. But that's, you know.
When I talked to Bob Cook, he said that he couldn't ever really understand from Mr. Donlon specifically what it was that Mr. Donlon was trying to say was done wrong. He said they asked him the question a number of occasions, Mr. Donlon, what is it you say was wrong? And they never could get a specific answer out of him. And then it finally boiled down to that he appeared to be upset that he wasn't consulted about the wording that was put on the plaque that was paid for by the Arbor Day Committee. I don't know. I just thank God that everybody's been clear that maybe we can put this one in.
Yeah, I think he was a veteran, and he just felt like veterans should have been consulted or something to that effect. Is what I kind of grabbed from.
And we told him that if he would like to bring his checkbook, make a donation to the Arbor Day Committee, next time we got ready for a plaque, we'd be more than happy to consult with him.
Any other receipt of communication? I want to address something here at this time myself. At the last meeting, there was discussion about a Facebook page, on my Facebook page, and I want to address it since I did some research that night to kind of figure out what was going on, where it came from, and so forth. But let me read this real short, and then I'm going to give you a copy too that can be a part of our record.
Okay.
I want to address our November 20th meeting regarding the issue about Facebook. I will first state that I did not post the Air Jordan statement on my Facebook, nor did I comment so very true about the post. It was never on my Facebook timeline at any time. On September the 18th, a Randy Sloan posted the statement on his timeline with the comment so very true. It was commented on by others, one of which is on my friends list. At that time, it appeared on my news feed, which is not visible by anyone but me. I did share it with a very liberal friend of mine, which caused it to appear on my friend's news feed. I shared it with my friend, who has and continues to send me very anti-conservative, anti-Republican, and anti-Christian posts. I sent that post to be in his face, so to speak, to be spiteful, sarcastic, and mean-spirited. I did not think about it being on others' news feed other than his. I did not send it to offend anyone other than him. I don't believe it was racist, nor did I share it with that intent. My intent was to be mean and offensive to him. Being mean is not a Christian character, and I was wrong. To anyone who viewed it and was truly offended, I apologize to you. To those who knew that I would not post nor make that statement so very true, I say thank you. To those who figured out I did not make the statement so very true, but deleted that info along with the comment thread with the names attached, then photocopied it, transferred it to your email accounts, and sent it out to your friends, implying it was on my Facebook page, which it never was. Shame on you. I can only hope that you will man up yourself and take the opportunity to apologize to the town of Irmo, our citizens, for your attempt to try to divide our community. It is time for some in this room to decide how they can work to build a better Irmo. If they can't, maybe there are some who are seated here on this side of the podium or on that side of the podium who do need to consider offering their resignation. If you desire to work together, then let's lay down our swords, lay down your swords, pick up your shovel, and let's work to build a better Irmo. And that's my comment. Anybody wants to ask any questions after the meeting, I'll be happy to discuss anything else. And there's a copy of that for the record.
Can I have a copy of that?
If Bob can make one. Presentation by citizens.
I have a receipt of communications also. You're going to revisit that situation because you just made some accusations in your statement that I think is spiteful and hurtful to your community and whole. And if you think you're going to, let's basically say I'm sorry to a group of people that you didn't offend, instead of saying it to the people you did offend, it's not going to work. So I'll just add that to your comments, and we'll continue on this saga next meeting.
Presentation by citizens. This is an item where citizens are come to speak to us about anything on the agenda tonight. And all you need to do is give us your name and address for the record, and also as to which item you'll be speaking to. Is there anyone who would like to address Irmo Town Council?
Good evening, George Glassmeyer, 100 Denbeck Road. I'd like to address item 8B, the third and final reading to amend ordinance 12-19 of the Irmo zoning ordinance. I've spoken against this before, and I've made it clear to this council for years that, of course, enactment or approval of this amendment will enable the Burger King owner to put gas pumps there. And I've consistently spoken against this for years, and I remain opposed to that. But as I've spoken to some of you council members since the last meeting one-on-one, and my view is I'm so minimally concerned now about gas pumps being at the Burger King. I still don't want them there, but I'm extremely concerned about the possible passage of this amendment because, in my view, you're using an atom bomb to kill an ant if your goal is to enable Mr. Brandon to put gas pumps at the Burger King. Because, as I told you at the last meeting, I went to the NAICS website and did the printout for those two zoning codes, and both of them permit gas stations with automotive repair, which means, it seems to me that some of you don't grasp the dynamics of this and the magnitude of this. If this amendment is passed as written, anybody could go and purchase any of the property is zoned neighborhood commercial in the town, and tomorrow put a gas station in there with automotive repair, could be a muffler shop, a tire repair shop, what have you, and operate that 24/7, 365, and many of these lots are immediately adjacent to residential properties. The best example I can give you is the stretch of Broad River Road between Royal Tower and the Violet. There's a whole stretch of neighborhood commercial, and all of those back up to homes in Old Friarsgate. I would not want to live in one of those homes and open up my window in April or October and hear impact wrenches going at 3 a.m. And if you approve this and pass this amendment as is, that could very well happen, and Chief Buck could do nothing about it when he got a complaint other than say, I'm sorry. And once this is enacted, to turn back, you would grandfather everybody. If you decided in a year or 6 months, well, this is a bad idea, let's amend it back the way it was, then I think you run the risk of grandfathering in all the people that own neighborhood commercial property into this as you amend it. I would ask that you take a really deep breath and really look at what you're doing and make sure you understand the dynamics of what you're doing. If the goal is to get gas pumps to Bob Brandy, I hate to say support, but I would much rather you just change that particular lot to general commercial rather than paint with this broad brush and effectively rezone all the neighborhood commercial properties to enable gas pumps. Again, I want to make it clear I don't support gas pumps at the Burger King, but that issue pales in comparison to the magnitude of what you're about to do here if you're not careful. If you're not certain of what you're doing and the dynamics and the impact of it, I would urge you to at least table this item for tonight and do your research and homework and discuss it among yourselves and make sure you know what you're doing before you proceed and do the third reading tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
My name is Elmer Danko. I live at 500 Finsbury Road. Mayor King, members of Irmo Town Council, I'm here to address the item B issue under unfinished business. As I stated at the public hearing on November 20th, I am very much opposed to the proposed amendment to the town ordinance to permit businesses with the NAIC code numbers to operate in neighborhood commercial, general commercial, or light manufacturing areas. If you vote yes to amend this town ordinance, you are voting to weaken or even remove the town ordinance that protects our residential neighborhoods from businesses locating near or even in our residential community. When campaigning for election to Irmo Town Council, each of you have stated that you want to help make Irmo a better place in which to live. In voting yes to amend the proposed ordinance in question, you are not voting to help make Irmo a better place and a safe place in which to live. You are voting yes to satisfy for whatever political reasons only the business community and its people. In some cases, a number of those people do not even live in the town of Irmo, and they care very little or nothing about the residents' concerns and safety. What is your real reason for wanting to satisfy the business community requests rather than voting no so as to satisfy the people that elected you to serve, to protect the residents, their residential property values, as well as their overall safety and security? It seems you only respect and listen to the voter to receive their vote at election time. And once you are elected, the voters' request for help in protecting their interests seems to fall on deaf ears. I ask you to listen to the wishes and requests of the residents, not only in this issue, but in all issues pertaining to the residents, their property, their concerns, and that you vote in a manner to always protect the residents, their investment in their property, and their overall safety and security. Please vote no to amend the Irmo zoning ordinance 12-19 to permit businesses to operate in neighborhood commercial, general commercial, and light manufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Justin Rutland. I currently live at 123 Winlock Circle over in Irmo. Here today, well, the reason I'm here today is I'm a customer over at the at pit stop number 34. It's the one that the previous two gentlemen have been mentioning at Broad River Road in Irmo. I live in that area. I'm a customer at the store, and I'm here today to talk about the current situation of the zoning ordinance in that area to be able to allow them to put gas pumps in at that store. The number one reason for me as a customer is, quite frankly, I can buy my gas there because that's where I currently shop at and buy my consumer goods. But as far as representing Pit Stop, which I'm here to do today, they believe that by allowing them to install those gas pumps at the location, it can provide three benefits to the community. Number one is that it will resolve a current safety issue at that intersection. One of the issues right now with that location not being able to sell gas is that customers have to go across the street, go across that intersection to buy their gas at the store across the street or go to another location. This contributes to traffic congestion during the peak hours of business when traffic is at its thickest over there. Also poses an increased risk to drivers who attempt to cross that street to buy their gas. A couple other benefits here is that, as far as this gas station in particular, is it's the most well-lit and easily accessible gas station in the area. I mean, there are other gas stations on this exit, both on that side of the street and also across on the other side of the interstate, but they're not as easily accessible or as well lit, so that contributes to the safety concern there. Finally, this is the only convenience store in that area that has a fast food drive-through option to be able to make that offering to consumers. Number two is improvement of the property. The Pit Stop convenience store chain, if they're allowed to put gas pumps at this location, will make a generous investment in this location. It'll be to make this property more an attractive location to the community. Also, it will create a one-stop shop type community store where consumers can buy their gas, their convenience, and grocery items, as well as also be able to eat at the Burger King. Finally, the last benefit to the community is that it's going to create more jobs. If they're allowed to put gas pumps at this location, and coupled with the investment and the monies that they're planning on investing in the properties, if they're able to do that, it'll lead to higher foot traffic at that location and also higher sales volumes, which will naturally create the need for more staff. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you.
Yeah, Winlock. W-E-E-L-O-C-K. Sir. So fast I didn't. All right.
We meet again, Mr. Mayor, council members. Lim Holtzclaw, 100 Lordship Lane. Again, I reiterate, I don't speak as eloquently as some people do in this room. We have been fighting this for 16 years, not the fact that a Burger King gas station convenience store needs to be in the town of Irmo. When they built this Burger King, they closed the one in the downtown area because they wanted to get closer to the interstate. The only reason that gas station wants to be there is because of the interstate. It is touching residential. It's always been touching residential. It was purchased with the fact that it was touching residential, and it was zoned as neighborhood commercial as a zoning buffer between general commercial, as Mr. Glassmeyer explained. You can put a gas pump in that location. You can put a auto parts repair place in that place. You need a buffer. Again, you need that buffer between residential and general commercial. The reason you need that is for property value. Without the property value being maintained in our neighborhood, Mr. Hoots, the property values will go down, the people will change in that neighborhood, and from when it changes in that neighborhood, the commercials will leave. If you don't believe me, don't vote for this tonight, postpone it, go drive down Two Notch Road. There are a bunch of closed down businesses and the house values are not what they used to be. And they've all moved out. We don't want to see that in Irmo. I've invested too much money in my property. My property does not touch that. But you've seen me here every night that we've had this for 16 years. Because of the fact that if their property values go down next to it, because they have to listen to it all day long, would you like it behind your house? No, I don't think any of you would. There's not enough buffer between the residents and the business in order to create a 50-foot berm, which you have on the next piece of property right next door to it. The empty lot. Y'all voted at one time to put a 50-foot berm between general commercial and our neighborhood with an 8-foot tree line on top of it that the property owners have to maintain. You don't have that there. You can never have that there. There's not enough room there. I don't know who's behind this, but somebody's pushing this to go through to make one man more money. He doesn't live in the area. The only reason he wants that gas station is because of this. Anybody who owns, or family members who own neighborhood commercial property should abstain from voting with this because it's going to look really funny that I'm voting to say yes to put neighborhood commercial to have general commercial because my property is going to be more expensive. And that's going to be money in somebody's pocket. Okay? So I hope that you will vote no on this like you promised us for years. Paul, you were on that committee 16 years ago, I believe, the council members, when we filled up that cafeteria with people. Those people have gotten older. They can't come out at night. Nancy Williamson would love to be here to fight with us, but she can't drive at night. So that's why I'm standing here for these people to do that. Please vote no. Put your personal feelings aside and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got the zoning on this one,
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is John Engel. I live at 518 Chadford Road in Irmo. I guess I represent those old folks that couldn't be here tonight because I've been here 35 years. I have seen over the past 35 years the general, I guess it's a general idea that Irmo is anti-business. My wife and I own a business in Irmo. Now, I used to have my business just outside of Irmo. We took an old building, which all of you probably know about, the old skating rink, and cleaned up something that had sat there for 3.5 years vacant. A lot of windblown trash and vines growing over the building and through the building. And we tried to clean it up. And we hope someday to be able to even expand and use more of the space we have there. And no matter what the zoning is, when you have business people who are willing to invest their own money to improve the situation inside the town, and you hinder that investment, you hinder that opportunity for the folks to do something bigger and better. And all businesses want to be bigger and better. It's no secret. Now, I've listened to the discussion over the years about the gas pumps at the Burger King. I'll admit I stop by there occasionally and get a breakfast sandwich and a cup of coffee. The folks have always kept their facility clean and neat. It's not difficult to get in and out of there if you drive at a reasonable speed. I don't see a safety problem. And the strange thing is, it's approved to have gas 60 feet across the right-of-way for Broad River Road, it's okay to have gas pumps 150 yards due north, but you can't have them right there in that one spot. I hope you will look at your potential change in ordinance seriously and give folks who own businesses an opportunity to expand when they have the resources to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address council on anything on the agenda tonight? Being none, next item on the agenda is unfinished business, and item A is third and final reading of ordinance 1218 to amend the business license ordinance for provisions for insurance companies. Is there a motion for third reading?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And just for the record, for the people who may not have been here before, what we're basically doing is just, I won't say tidy work, but trying to kind of clean up and redo our ordinance on insurance companies and how we collect the business license from them. There's some changes with us going from the SIC code to the NIACS code, and we have to kind of redo our ordinance to reflect that and allow the municipal association to continue to collect that money for us and then send us our portion. And that's basically what we're doing. It's just, I don't know if it's a state law or just a recommendation that we do it this way.
It's the state that's pushing the municipal association, but they do it for the whole state.
Okay. Any discussion from anyone? All in favor then of third and final reading of 1218, do so with show of hands. Next item on the agenda is item B, third and final reading of ordinance 1219 to amend our Irmo zoning ordinance Article 2, Section 2.2, use of tables and Table 1 to permit businesses with the NAICS code of 44710 and 447190 to operate in neighborhood commercials, general commercial, light manufacturing. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Tonight, have very eloquently posted and sent messages and sent and intimated that you didn't want us to change the zoning in neighborhood commercial. And I want to reiterate that we are not changing the zoning requirements in neighborhood commercial. In fact, the zoning requirements in neighborhood commercial are still the same as it was 2 years ago, 10 years ago. It's the same as it always has been. Your property values are not going to be denigrated because we're now allowing in certain situations neighborhood commercial to operate with a SIC code of 44710 and 44190. These properties or these SIC codes are in place to allow convenience stores with gasoline stations to operate in those areas, and it's making it uniform across the town of Irmo. Instead of having it one street, one person can do it, the other guy can't do it because he's was grandfathered in 10, 15, 20 years ago. The guy across the street can have it because he's not in the town limits or because he's general commercial. We're not doing that. We're just making it a uniform, clear, concise code across the town. And yeah, it's going to allow neighborhood commercial now to have gasoline stations or opportunity stores with gasoline stations. But the zoning that exists for neighborhood commercial still exists. The requirements for neighborhood commercial, buffering, all that still exists. Nothing has changed. Nothing is changed. And what we are trying to do is make it uniform across town so that we can be uniformly applying our zoning ordinances. So that's why, I put it on the agenda, and that's why we're at the point where we're at now.
I had asked Bob to kind of clarify for us what buffering and what controls our zoning ordinance allows for the hours of operation, noise levels, for different types of businesses that would be within the neighborhood commercial zoning. And we clearly have the zoning, the buffering in place that would protect that. So we would not have a garage operating at 3 a.m. in the morning. We would not have those noises of the impact wrenches that was referred to. Our zoning ordinance, and Bob, please correct me if I misspeak.
You're doing good.
Our zoning ordinance does allow us that protection, and that is made very clear. When a business comes into town, they know exactly, when they come to town for a business license, they would know exactly what they would have to do to be able to operate on that zoning classification.
Anything else?
I'd like to address, seems like there's some accusations as if I'm going to benefit from this. I do not own any neighborhood commercial property. My father does. I contacted the State Ethics Commission today to see if that was a conflict whatsoever. They said if it was going to be an immediate benefit, then yes, but it's not. No benefit at all. It's land, it's just raw land. So there's no convenience store on the neighborhood commercial that he owns. So it's just where he lives, where we all live. So, but I do not own any neighborhood commercial property. So that was some false information that was floating around.
Oh, well, might as well. Yeah. I'm convinced that this will not help the homeowner. It will not help the neighborhood, and it won't help protect property values. So I have to vote against it.
I wanted to ask you, the buffer zone, what is the buffer zone in neighborhood commercial?
Right now, it's 10 feet from neighborhood to RS.
So building, lot line or building, you can only build 10 foot up to the...
No, you got to have a 10-foot buffer. There's also setback requirements for the size of the building that's allowed.
So you have a 10-foot buffer, plus the building has to be X amount of feet away, depending on whatever height or whatever. Plus it has to have a 10-foot buffer. Now in general commercial, what is that in general commercial?
20 feet.
So it's more in general commercial.
Oh, yeah.
So somebody could put a gas station or muffler shop or whatever and only have 10 foot of buffer in the neighborhood commercial as opposed to 20 foot in a general commercial. And as far as the hours, you mentioned hours, and what are the hours they can operate in neighborhood?
Well, we have noise ordinances in place.
No, the hours, just the hours.
We can regulate that when they come in for a zoning permit. I mean, we did it with Walmart. We've done it with a few other businesses that have opened up in town and coordinated and worked with them on what their hours are going to be.
There's nothing in our neighborhood commercial that says they can't be 24 hours.
Yeah, but there is something in there that says they can't have noise, they can't have air pollution, they can't have odors. You know, I mean, the ordinance clearly states that noise is above a certain decibel level after 9 o'clock is a violation of town ordinance.
But that's for all zoning, I guess.
That's correct.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could, if you regulated that, I mean, I don't know what an impact wrench, what kind of noise level it is, but I suspect it's up there.
Okay. So it mainly just says anywhere after 9 it can't reach over
a certain decibel. That's correct.
Okay. And a couple things I just wanted to mention. This kind of comes up, but anyway, I know we're not just talking about Bob Brandy's place, because we're talking about every neighborhood commercial zoning in town. But it was also brought up that across the street you can have a gas pump, and yes, you can. There is a service station across the street from Bob Brandy's location. That's also in a, I don't know if it's in a general commercial or neighborhood, but it also doesn't back up to residential neighborhoods. And yes, there is a place down the road. No, it would not be allowed today. It's not allowed at this moment. They were grandfathered in years ago when they got annexed into the town. Or I don't know if it's when they got annexed or just when we changed our code years ago. So that place is allowed to operate because, again, the only other option the council would have had at that time years ago, whomever may have served, would be to tell that business they had to close down, which that would be anti-business, and that ain't what they did. All they did was allow them to operate and continue to operate, even though it was not a permittable business at that time. And I think with the clause that as long as they were not closed for 6 months, then they could continue to operate. But more so than just the Mr. Brandy location, you know, there's a lot of locations in town that, like George Glassmeyer spoke about. There's many locations in town. I just came down the road today from C-Mart, and next to Walgreens, there's a big old vacant lot right there. There's a vacant lot over here where the fire escape sign is. But whether a lot is vacant or not vacant really doesn't make a whole lot of difference depending on the time. I don't think anybody in the next year or two is going to buy any existing business, tear it down and put up a gas station convenience store. But at some time down the road, when certain businesses stay vacant, stay closed or whatever, someone may decide to buy something and tear it down. They just did it on Harbison Boulevard, where they tore down the old McDonald's and built a new business and put 2 new locations in there. So it can happen. I again don't agree that this is the best way to do this. I think if I remember correctly from that map that we had last meeting, there were roughly 152 neighborhood commercial properties in town where someone could buy 1 or 2 or multiple of them and put in a gas station convenience store next to residential properties. I think of the 152, there were about 95 of them that did touch residential property, and about 65 of them, if I remember correctly, that were probably suitable locations. And there's a lot of them out there. At the very end of Chadford Road on Farming Creek, there's a couple lots there. I think one belongs to the town and the other side is a church and some other place. But they're big enough to put a convenience store gas station. Irmo Drive has a couple locations. You know, one of them has to be Salvation Army Church. I don't think they're going to sell their place, but at some point it may be profitable to do that. And buy some other land somewhere else and build another building. And it's not so much today that we look at, but we also have to look at what's going to happen 5 years, 10 years down the road, 2 years down the road. And I don't think this is anything that's going to benefit our residential properties. I don't think it's going to benefit the town of Irmo in the long haul. I think it is designed to benefit a few people, a few properties. And as Mr. Glassmeyer mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised if it got passed and his individual location got permitted and built, and then they came back and tried to change it. I just don't think it's a good way of doing it. And as Kathy said and others, we're here to do what's best for the town of Irmo, which includes the business and the residents. But at the same time, the residents are who live here, who vote for us, who we serve, and we have to weigh that out. I own a business myself, and I don't believe in a lot of government regulation, and I do believe businesses have the right to kind of decide what's best for them. But I also do believe, as elected officials, we're here and sit here by the people to represent them and to do what's best for them. And we have to weigh that out. And we've had last meeting and this meeting, I think we've had 2 people speak for it on behalf of the change, and probably about 10 speak against it. And I know most of the people out there that are affected by this are against it. I just think it's a very bad way for us to do something in order to resolve something that's been hanging out there for many years. Again, I'm going to vote against it as well. And I can only ask council members to do the same thing and go from there. Any other discussion? All in favor for a third and final reading of ordinance 1219 to amend our zoning ordinance to allow the codes 447110 and 447190 in these, and mainly it's neighborhood commercial that are already allowed in general commercial and light manufacturing. Do so with show of hands. All opposed? Next item on the agenda is new business. Item A, approval of final plans for new town park. Mr. Brown, I think you put this on the agenda, and I think
Mr. Grimble
yeah,
right
Mr.
there.
Grimble is right here to go over the details with us.
Okey doke. I'm sorry, my stuff is kind of boring.
You got my park bill, right?
Y'all gather around, or I got seven.
Yeah, I want to see the final plan.
All right, those are down here.
These are not, I'm welcome anyone else to come on. Yeah, these are not complete.
Go Dogs. No, you gotta say it back if I have. No. Okay, that's the last one you get.
So what you need? You need us to say, okay, we approve or
No.
something? Or?
I'd like you to say if you disapprove.
Oh, okay.
The next time you come back to us, you're going to have specs ready to go to bid.
No, he's going to have already bidded it, I would hope, because we don't meet again until
Yeah, you probably
15%.
don't unless you have, I mean, this is, the details are left. I mean, this is the guts of the project. So unless I hear something different from you guys involved, then
I need to have Bob get to you some power requirements in a vendor area,
I would like that.
the amperage
Yeah.
that would necessary.
We've had grocery talk.
Yeah.
Detailed it out, but my electrical engineer is moving, so yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Grimble, could you,
Better on everything.
do you have a smaller version of that stage layout, just the look of the stage and this picnic shelter? Like one they can put on like maybe 11 by 14 or something like that?
We can produce that in any, yes, we can produce that any size.
If I can get-
And I can PDF it to you if you
Yeah, that'd be great if you can do that to me.
want. You have an email?
Yeah.
Or-
It's Barry Walker at Town of Irmo, SC.
Or if you can get it to Bob, Bob can bounce it out to all of
Everybody,
us.
actually.
I'll PDF that to Bob and he
Yeah.
can
Okay.
spend
Yeah, he
it.
can.
Of the picnic shelter and the stage.
I'll send all the structures.
Okay. Yeah, the bathroom too.
And the basic layout too.
Yeah. I guess somebody wants to buy a bathroom, man.
Okay.
No, well, I won't send all the
Yeah, no.
but I'll send the layout and the structure.
There are people that have been here that are not here tonight that are going to contact someone. What did it finally look like? We won't be able to show them something.
Yeah.
Super.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is the approval of our 2013 council meeting schedule. Mr. Brentwell, I think that was in our
It is.
Oh,
Approval, item A, we need to,
do we need to vote on that, or do we just need to, I think he said just to,
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the final plans as outlined by Mr. Grimble, the architect.
Second?
and
Does that help you with your housekeeping?
thank you.
Okay.
all in favor?
As long as it doesn't take more than 60 days.
All right, we got to move forward.
All in favor, do so with show of hands. All opposed?
Also, along that same line, and I was going to do it separately, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed post haste with the permitting for the well, to get that started.
Well, now we can't, I don't say add anything to the agenda, but I think we can.
That's all, I'm looking at that as part of the final approval of the plans. That was one thing he outlined that we needed to
Go ahead and do whatever to get that done, yeah. Because that might be part of the final.
Yeah, I'm not talking about drilling the well just yet, but let's get the permit so we can have it identified where it's got to be.
Get that? Or do we apply for it as a town?
Well, he'll apply, but I mean, if we can run it through Harvey and he can get it quicker, because last time it took us 6 weeks and we thought we were rushing it through for the well at the police department.
Let me know. I'll talk to the people that need to do
the wells.
Okay. And back to item B, approval of the 2013, and I think you did have it in there.
We got it.
Thing. I thought I saw it too, but I don't see it now.
It's on your iPad.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. And does anyone have any objection with anything that was on there or not on there, or the way it was set up?
This is basically the same as always been, hasn't it?
It is. We've got 3 budget workshops that we put in there starting in March. You have some canceled meetings because of holidays, and then we have an election next year for our council.
And I think the only one I saw different was we are meeting the second month or second meeting in December, whereas this month or this year we're not, I think.
Correct.
But other than that, I think.
Correct.
Yeah. So is everybody fine with that schedule?
You can always cancel it later.
Yeah, we can always make adjustments to it if we notify the press.
And the reason we do that, I think state law or something says we're supposed to do that by the end of the year or before the end of the year or something, so that they can have a schedule and send it out to whomever, public and newspapers and all those places and everything. So all in favor of approval of the 2013 council meeting schedule, do so with show of hand. Next item is the discussion of town banking services. I asked Bob to go ahead and put this on. We had a bunch of emails going out the other day in regards to should we, shouldn't we, is there a benefit, should we bid it out and all that stuff. And I just felt like it'd be better if we just discussed it here publicly and amongst everybody at one time and decided what to do. It's my understanding that we're with BB&T right now. And I guess we pay about $175 a month on average, I think you said, for the stuff.
Yep.
There's been discussion as far as changing it to one of the other local banks. I felt like, I bank at another bank, and I'm sure y'all bank at different banks too, whoever. But if we are going to change, then we should allow all the local banks or in-town banks to at least have a shot at it. I myself personally kind of don't know if it's a great need, being that unless we're going to save a good amount of money, and it doesn't require a whole lot of cost to do so, and it doesn't require a whole lot of time to do so, then maybe so. But as far as I understand from you, it isn't going to save us a whole lot of money, depending on who we go with and all like that. So what does other council think? Is it something y'all want to look at, do or not do, or?
I didn't know what the problem with BB&T was, and I asked that, and I understand now that everybody's just looking for a lower rate. But the only thing I think we need to be conscious of and remember is, do we need to change software? What's that going to cost? Do we need to, we will have to get new checks printed, and I think we just ordered thousands or whatever. We cannot avail ourselves of online banking because that is no security at all for public money. There has to be written checks with 2 signatures that can be returned or validated. And what's that clearinghouse, AOH, ACH, they all have to be that way because we're dealing with public money. It would be a big change. Now, if we want to bid it out and give everybody the same parameters, that's fine.
That was my position.
It's fine, but this is not just like, a normal checking account, because it has to meet certain criteria, it has to be secure, and we all have to be happy with it, especially Bob and Ken.
And like I said, right now, we don't have a problem, nothing's broke, but I was asked to check with another bank, and they wanted to, try to get our business, and they compared some prices, and when all was said and done, it was like $14 a month was all we were going to save, because they had left some of the fees out of the proposal they gave us. That when they found out some other things that we have to do, they said, well, yeah, we can do that, but there's like a $60 fee for doing it. It's transferring out of local government investment pool. And so there's just no cost saving. But, if council wants us to bid, we will, but I don't think we need to right now.
I think that we need to have our ducks in a row, so to speak, when any of us as council members or the mayor, as we move around town, and I bank at a different bank in town than the ones that we're using, and I've been asked, well, what do I have to do to get your business, to get the town's business? I make contributions to the town. Can I get a little bit of business? And I think we have to have something that we can tell them, well, this is a package that this is our minimum requirements. And this is what we have today. If you want to give us a quote on that, fine and dandy, but here's all the little pieces, parts, so that everybody's playing by the same rules, and you're not trying to take one person's numbers and give them to somebody else and say, can you beat this, and that type of thing.
Now, we did this 2 years ago with the former administrator.
We did?
We did it in terms of phone calls, and because I kept asking, and as it turned out, BBT was the most reasonable at that time. So maybe we need to do it every 2 years. I'm not against it. I just want to make sure that we don't get something done wrong that's not going to make that audit come out.
There was one misconception, and the bank that was trying to get our business didn't realize that our $5 million in savings was kept in the local government investment pool.
Yeah, because
they thought our money was in a bank and they were going to reap big benefits. We don't keep more than about $40,000, $50,000 in the bank, and all we do is keep it there to write checks.
Right.
When we have to write big checks, we transfer money in. We write the checks and money goes out. It's like a clearinghouse. That's the only reason we use the bank right now.
I'm sure if they could have millions, they'd be happy, but that's not the safest place for our money.
Right.
Or the best return.
Councilwoman Condom, was bids done 2 years ago?
There were no bids. The administrator called Jim Holcomb at First Citizens, whoever's at First Community. Ameris wasn't there. BB&T and another. He called 5 banks and told them roughly, because I kept badgering him. It's the only reason he did it. Anyway, it is, yeah. He didn't get a price lower than BB&T. He got some comparable, but he didn't get one lower.
And BB&T did come back with...
Yeah, BB&T was willing.
They adjusted their rates or something, I remember.
They did, yeah. Because I kept asking, why aren't we getting more interest? Why aren't we getting more? And this reason.
Well, Bob knows what we're looking for. I have no idea. And
it's a lot more involved than just, a checking account.
Absolutely.
But as long as everybody goes by the same rules, same parameters.
Well, the only thing too about bidding it out is the time it takes to do that, and then if you bid it out and somebody is lower and they expect us to change because they're saving us $5.
But we got about $2,000 worth of software.
And I think you'd almost have to say, unless we can save X amount of dollars and it doesn't cost us X amount of dollars, then, because I remember that conversation a couple of years ago too. And I've spoke to my bank since then too, just to fly it by them to see if it's anything they're interested in. And of course, nobody's never going to tell you they're not interested in your business.
Oh, no.
But at the same time, when they know that that money's not in that big
You don't
account,
have any interest
and there's no
bearing
salivating and there's no big eyes popping out. When I mentioned the monthly bank fees to them, it's kind of like, oh, well, that's, that's not a big thing. I just kind of, again, if we're happy and they haven't done anything to, if they ever get to the point where they, treat us rudely and don't give us good service and all that kind of stuff.
Well, the fees go up
then
real
it's-
quick.
Yeah, the fees go up real bad, and then it's time to look. But I think they did negotiate their fees a couple of years ago. From what I
They
remember.
did, yeah.
And I remember asking at the same time, because I do bank in a different bank, and I asked why we don't have money at the other bank, and same thing. He just said there's no money to put at every bank. We don't keep that money in the bank.
Well, public money's got to be secure.
Just explore it. It could be a big savings, who knows?
Well, I think right now it's what, $14?
But that's what it was for the savings.
Yeah.
Well,
About
but
$14 per time.
you didn't bid it out, so you just kind of asked them something cheap, right?
Oh, no.
You didn't have a set of parameters, this is what I'm looking for, and then,
Oh, we had 3 or 4 meetings, and they had copies of our bank statement to see if they could compare, make sure we were kind of comparing everything, the same. But what wasn't on our bank statement was the fact that we get free transfers from BB&T, and the other bank wanted to charge us $60 per transfer. And because we have to do that once or twice a month.
how much effort would it be for you to put it down in a spreadsheet saying, here's the requirements we need to have, and then pass it out to whoever is interested in looking at it? Kim?
The treasurer.
How much effort is involved with you putting that on a spreadsheet of
Not even
our
on a-
requirements?
Yeah, but
Listing out what we need to have as far as banking is concerned.
Kim is not looking at you with an
I don't know. I mean, I'm
I'm very pleased with BB&T. Just.
I'm sure you are.
I know, but I mean.
I'm not saying change.
I don't know, I don't know all I could sit down with somebody like
We'd have to
Rob
go through
did.
the whole
We have to go through all,
statement.
because there were things that were given back to us as far as what Ameris Bank could do, and you weren't comparing apples to apples.
What I'm saying is put down a sheet saying we need to have free checking, we need to have deposits, unlimited transfers, whatever.
And free checks to make the change.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, we pay for our own checks. I mean, we have to
Well,
pay
put down, we'd like to have free checks if we do change. If we do change, say I want free checks. 1,000 free checks. Or whatever, however many you just bought. Seriously, just list that out and say, okay, here's our requirements. Now, BB&T, Ameris, First Citizens, whoever wants to bid on this, are you interested?
How much will we charge per month?
It's about 175.
Between 170 and 190, right in there. It doesn't fluctuate
And then when it comes back, it's still BB&T at 175, then the answer is settled.
Yeah.
We've given them the requirements. We said, this is what we're looking for. You responded back to us, what you can do. It's all been all above board. Everybody's on the same playing field. I don't think, don't look at me with contempt now. Is that?
No, she's
It's
thinking.
whatever you all decide. However, it was for a minimal amount of the savings it would be, if
Right.
any,
Right.
it would be a major headache.
And I agree, but at least we can say, here's what we're looking for, Ameris, blah, 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 bank, blah, 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 bank, and then get them all 3 responding. So we can't say that, well, we never gave you a chance.
Yeah,
You never gave us a chance to even try. You didn't even tell us what you wanted,
and put something down there about service.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when we call, we want to talk to
So
somebody.
Absolutely. I mean,
Because I have somebody that I do call BB&T and immediate response. I've not had any issues with BB&T.
And BB&T is a great bank. I deal with them.
And Mr. Millhouse made it good, because that was one of the things when this came up, I talked to Mr., not Bob himself, but Mr. Michelson that does our audit. He's the one that actually comes and does it. What are some questions to ask to make sure that, And that he made that we have collateral that's in our name over and above what the FDIC insures. So those were questions that we had to ask. So stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm hearing too from staff is that staff is not requesting this change, and I'm almost gathering that it's not something that they desire us to do. The only reason we would be doing it is for, say, a council member or two or three or whatever may want it done for whatever reason.
To say
That's a good reason. 3 council members want to see it done. Yeah?
Not if staff is saying politely it's not a good thing for them. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time and energy to change this, and a lot of mistakes can take place.
It's not a good thing for them to write down the requirements on a piece of paper?
I don't think that's a good way of getting at anything.
You did not hear that.
I know what I heard.
Well, you did not hear that.
There.
You did not hear them say that they didn't want to write down the requirements and put it on a piece of paper.
I said they did
But
not
you did
ask
hear
for
3
this to
councilmen
be
saying that
changed.
they would like to see it.
No, I haven't, because we haven't said that. All we're doing is giving Bob some ideas to work with. What I've heard from him
What if we do
and
a vote?
from
We could do that.
Kim is that it's not something that they desire to go through.
I didn't hear that. They did not say that they didn't want to go through it. Stop
That's
putting
fine.
words in their
That's
mouth.
fine. If you didn't hear that, I did. I said I
Well,
did.
they
That's
did.
fine.
They didn't say that, though.
We didn't want to change banks. It's not broke.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not
You
broke.
just say
Don't
that you
fix
didn't want to write down the requirements on a piece of
And,
paper.
And again, if you're going to bid it out, you almost have to do sealed bids, because it's not right to have stuff floating around that everybody can look at and share. I think then you get into having to write some kind of requirement. Or you can ask the banks to come in and speak to you personally and say, tell us what you'll do. But then that requires you to have 3 or 4 or 5 meetings with multiple banks over and over and over again. And for $14 a month or $20 a month or whatever, I just think it's a big waste of our town staff and our town energy.
Well, what would be a significant change, Bob, if it was half cheaper, 50% less? Would that be significant?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we save $70, $80, $90 a month. I mean, that's significant. I mean, that's a reason to change.
And depending on how much it costs us to
Assuming
change,
that,
too.
right, we don't have the overhead. I mean, if they
Yeah.
give us free checks and, make the change with no cost to us and do all the
Right.
IT work on the software on our computers.
But $14, no, that's not enough to change.
No, that
Not
just,
that unreasonable.
If I could put my 2 cents in.
Yes.
I think that we're probably at a crossroad here, where if we're going to do something, now would be a good time to make that list of our minimum requirements. Because we've had to do it with Ameris Bank. That bank's been mentioned. And the reason that that came up, as I understand it, is that they approached us. What do we have to do?
they wanted our business.
Well, you can't very well say, well, nothing. We're not going to even consider it. So when they said, well, give us a fair chance to see what we can do, then staff had to come up, and y'all did a lot of homework and digging to find out all the little pieces, parts that makes our system work. Now that we know those pieces, parts, now would be a good time to commit them to paper. So that if it comes up again, and I'm not advocating that we go out and contact all the banks and say, hey, we're going to put this out, who wants to be a part? But if it comes up again, we can legitimately say, now we have minimum requirements. And for us to make a change, it can't cost us anything. It's got to be a sizable savings. And then you could say, here's what we would have to do. And it may be, I know we buy our checks, correct?
Correct.
But if we just bought them last month and they're wanting us to change, then it behooves them to provide the replacement checks.
Actually, it was, our checks were ordered today.
Right. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
And if we're paying our software person because of our other software that they manage, $50 an hour to come in and do something, and they say, well, my software guy can come in and do that, but he gets $80 an hour. Sorry. I'm not willing to eat that in order to make the change. And now that we know some of these pieces, parts, I think that we might be able to keep them or put them down. I'm sure as part of the proposal that they made, we could just extract that, and then we would have it if somebody came up.
Well, I think a lot of these banks probably think, as we said, that our savings, which is, you know, in million, or 3 million, 4 million, that we keep that in the bank, and that's in a local government investment pool, and that's more protected than if we
See,
spread it out.
I'm looking at this as banking's not my business, okay? And I was approached by TD Bank
Yeah, and you, yeah.
because they volunteered to run the bank for the Okra Strut. They bring people from all their branches in so that we don't touch that money. It's done, and that satisfies our auditor. And they said, well, what do we have to do to maybe get the Okra Strut's account? Not the town's account, but the Okra Strut's account. Well, I said, that sounds good. And I came and I talked with you about it, and we talked with Millhouse, and it was going to put a tremendous burden on you. You were going to have to start handwriting checks. I started backpedaling real quick, and I explained that to the bank, and they said, I see your point, not a problem, but we'll still be there next year. But at least I had an answer for them. I didn't shrug them off and say, sorry, you know, you weren't here at the right time. So, but I'm not one to build in more work for you. I just think we need to be prepared for the question when it's asked.
Let's start it.
So do you want to call like 4 or 5 local banks, or 2 or 3, or whatever it may be?
You don't think you have to call any banks.
I wouldn't call anybody. I just
He just wanted me to break out the monthly fee schedule and see what we pay and what we actually get.
what you get for the dollars, and then if something comes up or if we get dissatisfied, we can go out and say, hey.
So we're not calling banks or asking banks, but if they call you or whatever, then or they call us or whoever.
Correct.
Then we just tell them to call you and give them a sheet.
Right. Say, what can you do for us? Here's what we need.
Okay.
You know, I know that there's contractors that's already calling the architect over the park.
No doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to be able to say, this is exactly what we want. So everybody's bidding on the same thing. And that's all I'm saying. We just...
We'd probably find out who's really interested, if even BB&T, if we said, we just need to borrow about $3 million. And just see what they say. We'd find out who really wants us.
We got $4 million bank. What do you, $3 million?
No, we don't tell them, no, they don't. We just want to borrow it.
Next item on the agenda is presentation by citizens, and this is where anyone can come speak to Irmo Town Council about anything, whether it's on the agenda or not on the agenda, either one. Does anyone want to address Irmo Town Council? Not even nobody here.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Yeah, there's no executive session.
Do we need an executive session?
No executive session, so a motion to adjourn by Mr. Hoops. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, well, okay. All in favor?
Thank you, John. I gather we didn't need an executive